We don't often do as much on kind of construction as we do on repairs and maintenance in the DIN property channel. So it's nice to hear something that is primarily born out of the completely ridiculous way in which payments flow through the construction system. I might be stealing part of what Jarvi is going to say about, but I've on their website. It's worth having a look at their website um, because it says 18 construction businesses go bust every working day in the UK, and construction businesses go bust because they run out of money. And this is a solution that helps people not run out of money. So, Jarvi, over to you.
Thanks, Matthew. That's 2 of my 7 minutes dealt with. That's great.
I'm
Nice to
sure
meet
you can fill
everybody.
them.
I don't worry. Unfortunately for everyone, I can. Um, Nice to meet you all. I'm Jarvi, the CEO and co-founder of Saible. And as Matthew has said, we are a payment system for construction, development, but also heavy refurb or large maintenance projects. Basically anywhere where you've got a supply chain which has multiple layers in it. Because anytime you have that situation, you end up with this problem with the way that the money moves through the supply chain from top to bottom. Or rather, very often doesn't move through that supply chain from top to bottom. Because it's moving as cash, it's a very strong incentive to hang on to the cash for as long as you can if you're at the top of the supply chain, and take the 30-day terms that you're getting from your client and turn them into 60 or 90-day terms that you're paying your suppliers on, and then basically making money on the arbitrage over time between those two payment dates. If you then compound that with, as Matthew said, the highest insolvency rate of any sector of the economy, you create a high degree of risk for project funders, housing associations, property developers, commercial builders, whoever really, anyone who's building stuff or refurbishing it or maintaining it. Because if you lose a tier one contractor going from the top of that supply chain, then you lose 3 or 4 months worth of money out of that project. Your suppliers either go bust themselves, or they're very angry and they disappear off onto other projects, stealing all the cement mixers, or they refuse to work for you, or they require you to pay them again for things you've already paid for because the money didn't reach them, and so on. So what we've done at Saible is we've created a digital parallel payment account, or DIPA for short. So every project has its own bank account, and that bank account has a legal trust surrounding it that ring fences and protects the money. And then the project's funding flows from the funders into the project account where it's held in trust. And then our tech allows the supply chain members to authorize payments to each other from that bank account, from which we can then calculate how much of the drawdown for that period is actually due to each individual business. And then we pay them all at the same time in parallel. And crucially, a customer only gets paid when their supplier gets paid. So there's a strong incentive to ensure that that authorization for payment flows down through the supply chain so that everyone can get paid. That's what they're doing the work for at the end of the day. What that does for the funders is it protects them against that insolvency risk, because money held in trust in that account is not an asset of any of those businesses. So should one of them go bust, the receivers can't come after that money, and it can still be used to pay the remainder of the supply chain as was always intended. I'm going to try and guess what some of your questions might be. We launched in January. We have our first project with a housing association, which we're onboarding at the moment, due to break ground this month. And the situation that we have at the moment causes enormous societal pressures. As Matt's pointed out, the number of insolvencies involved, but there are a lot of SMEs in here. So you've got a lot of mental health problems. People are losing their homes. People are losing their marriages because of non-payment. That's adding extra cost to your projects. Excuse me. So our job is to solve that dysfunctional payment culture, protect the money for the project funders, and ensure that everyone in the supply chain gets paid so your projects finish on time and on budget. I'm going to stop because someone's asked a question, and I do like interaction. It's much better than blindly talking. So Anne-Marie, you said, in practice, is this baked into the development contract so everyone signs up to use this payment account? Yes, that is how it works. Although from your perspective as the client, you just put it into your contract with your contractor, and it's a condition of payment for your contractor that then they onboard their subcontractors to the system, and so on all the way down. So it's not creating additional admin or anything for you.
Yeah. And Javi, I've got a similar kind of observation about this. It's a bit like the question for Jerry about drop-off rate, knowing that it's an AI. Do you think that tier one contractors will embrace this with open arms, or do you expect some degree of resistance from the people further up the chain who would, under the current system, stand to gain?
It's been varied, actually. I was expecting more resistance than we've received. I think if you put this in place and your contractor pushes back, then you have a very valid question to ask your contractor, which is, what are you intending to do with this money? Because all I want here is for the money to go into this project. So if you're telling me you don't want it to be paid in this way, then you're telling me that you're going to use my money to fund something other than this project. And that's creating a risk for me as a project funder. So I'd rather you didn't do that. That's why this system's coming in the first place. Julian, good question. No, it fits into your, sorry, the question that would the entire project cost need to be loaded into the account at the start of the project. Incidentally, when you've put account in air quotes there, it is a real bank account. It's not like an electronic money account or anything like that. So you have all the normal protections. It's held at a UK bank. No, you don't need to load the entire project cost into the account at the beginning. You could if you wanted to, but there's not really a great deal of reason to do that. You just follow your normal drawdown process, your normal valuation process, everything that you would just do on site anyway, which is what you've got here. You just continue to do that. It's only at the point of payment that instead of sending it into your contractor's bank account, you send it into your project's bank account, and then it's distributed from there to that whole supply chain.
And so I'm just waiting to see if anybody else came in. In terms of um, the revenue model that you've got, Jarvi, how does this work for you?
That's a good question. We charge a flat transaction fee of 0.25% on the payment made. So you can budget for it quite easily. On £1 million project, it's £2,500 that you'd be paying. The accounts bear interest, but that comes back to the client. We don't make money on the money because people making money on the money is the problem in the first place. It's occurred to me actually that one of the things I should probably mention as well is that you may well know that under the new Procurement Act, which came into force in February, publicly funded projects can now be spot checked to ensure that payments are going to the entire supply chain within 30 days. So SMEs need to be paid within 30 days, and the public sector body is now responsible for ensuring that that's happening. And of course, you have no control over a payment once you've paid your contractor. So you can stipulate that you want them to pay their suppliers at the same time, but you can't actually enforce them doing that. And if you get spot checked, it's very hard to prove what is going on and what's not. You have to audit the whole thing, which is a real pain. So obviously with a system like this, that's dealt with.
Okay. And in terms of what you're looking for at this point, Jarvi, you mentioned that you're onboarding your first housing association customer. How many would you like over the next 6 months? Do you have a number that you would like to work with to refine this, or do you think it's a product that is now fully refined and ready to be rolled out as widely as people want it?
We're ready. We're ready to roll. It's taken us a couple of years to build. That's why we launched in January. The company started in 2023. We have pilots out with the Environment Agency. We have an NHS multi-hospital trust up in Liverpool that's using it. As I said, the Housing Association, a number of private sector development projects, residential and commercial projects. Because of what happened with ISG, I don't know if you're familiar with that, with a very large insolvency last year. Something like 400 to 500 million pounds of the public's purse has disappeared as a result of that single insolvency. And that led to the Department for Business and Trade taking us through to Cabinet Office. So we've been through Cabinet Office, we've been through Crown Commercial Service, Ministry of Justice, Infrastructure and Projects Authority, all of these sorts of people. And that's where the Environment Agency pilots come through. So from central government's perspective, they're looking to roll this out on all of development and construction work that they're doing. And the pilot with the Environment Agency is basically them assessing it for that purpose. So yeah, we're ready to go. We're obviously an early stage business, so you get overserved because we want to learn from doing this with you to see exactly what features you need and so on. But the core stuff is all built.
Excellent. And I mean, in terms of stuff that at DIN we like, the way in which contractors have been paid and paying their supply chain is unchanged for years. This is truly disruptive in the way in which that transaction chain would operate. So we're all in favor of this, Javi, and we hope that you get lots and lots of interest and lots of people saying, yeah, we want to stop our subcontractors going bust.
There's a lot of social value in that, but also because we actually verify the identities of all the different businesses that we're paying, we can also tell you how much of a project's budget went to SMEs that were located within the local area, so you can calculate your local economic multiplier effect to report back up, which I think Homes England's quite keen on. So there's a bunch of additional benefits beyond just the risk mitigation and cost reduction. I went to the social housing finance conference a couple of weeks ago, and there were a few people asking me about this in terms of applicability to refurb and maintenance. And as far as we're concerned, if there's a supply chain, it doesn't matter what you're doing, particularly in that supply chain. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, everyone.